All right, B-listers, you know the drill.
This is your official spoiler alert for the episode.
If you don't want any spoilers, stop the episode now.
And if you don't care about spoilers, hold on to your seats because this episode starts
Now.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Court.
And hello, fellow B critics. Welcome to another episode of the B Critics Podcast.
This movie is going to be the first of our spooky Halloween season. It's a pretty classic movie, or it's become a classic at least. So yeah, let's talk about it.
But before we really get into it, let's tell the people where to find us.
So you can follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at bcriticspodcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow our Instagram for all the best movie content.
Yes, definitely subscribe on YouTube.
It's free.
Okay.
Just do it. Click the little button. It's fine.
Okay. I think it's time to get into the episode.
Yay. Our guest critic for this episode is Daggy. He's the host of the Perfect Popcorn Movie Review blog. So hi, Daggy.
Hey, how we doing? Pleasure to be on the B Critics podcast today.
Pleasure to have
welcome.
you. All right. So, Daggy, just go ahead and tell us, tell the people who you are, how are you associated with the movie industry, and then tell us a little bit about Perfect Popcorn.
Of course. So my name's Daggy, aka Perf Pop, aka Man on the Street, aka win $200 if you get some movie trivia right. But I've been doing this since about May, and I've always been a big fan of just movies, movie trivia. Clearly, you see the backdrop here with a beautiful curated Funko collection. And
Yep.
I was always a really big fan of just kind of the movie theme pages. And recently, if you do check out my content, you'll see I've transitioned a little more to the man on the street and doing kind of the street interviews. And that was a big reason when I started this page, was just how can I give the fans a voice? It's great that I have an opinion about a movie and film is subjective, but how can I get other people to speak up and be able to voice their opinion and be able to be heard in such a big space? So essentially, that's kind of my job now. And Perfect Popcorn is all about welcoming all cinema fans. As you two know, I'm not a big horror fan, but horror fans are welcomed as well. And considering the fitting theme of spooky season, glad to have them here as well. So make sure to check me out. And maybe you'll catch me on the street yelling at you to do some movie trivia. So hopefully you come with the correct answers that time.
Yeah, study up because you could win $200.
Exact 3 in a row. That third one's always tough, though. Got to be ready.
Yeah, definitely go check out the Perfect Popcorn. But I think it's fitting that we have you on for the spooky season then, but we're not doing a horror movie or a spooky movie. I think we're doing a pretty fitting movie for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was
Family
horrifying
friendly.
to watch this, but
Oh no!
Oh my gosh.
we'll get into that.
Liz, this will be a good discussion.
It's fine. It's not my favorite Halloween movie or anything. All right. With that, Daggy, do you want to go ahead and introduce the movie?
Well, there's a little saying that goes something like this. We must find the book, brew the potion, and suck the lives out of the children in Salem before sunrise. Dost thou comprehend? Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
Ring some bells.
Okay. Maybe I should have worked on the accent a little bit.
No,
I thought it was
perfect.
Perfect.
So if you didn't pick up from Daggy's quoting, we're talking about Hocus Pocus today.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute, well, you're totally right, Liz. It's become a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give the movie of the episode. Hocus Pocus, if you live under a rock and haven't seen it, tells the story of 3 witches in Salem, Massachusetts, who have been awakened in present day on Halloween night in 1993. Max, a virgin, lights the black flame candle, bringing them back to life for one night and one night only. That is, unless they can claim the soul of a youth, ending their curse. Will the Sanderson sisters be able to break the curse before sunrise? Or will Max and friends foil their plans, leading to a dusty demise?
Ooh.
Sounds like a good movie on paper. But the final cut, I don't know. Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's do it.
So this classic is an hour and 35 minutes. It
Mhm.
is not a true spooky horror movie. It's a comedy, fantasy, holiday, family, and kids movie.
Mhm.
Rated PG-13, came out in 1993 and was produced by
I think it's just
Disney.
it's not PG-13.
Oh my God, PG. What a different movie it would be if it was PG-13.
I don't think there'd be virgins if that was the case. But I digress.
I was surprised about how much they mentioned like the virgins, and like Danny, the 8-year-old, was talking about how her brother's a virgin.
Yeah, like was that like a dinner table conversation?
Oh
Like,
my
how
God.
was school today, son? Oh, well, I'm still a virgin. But
The
whatever.
90s were a different time.
Nice
Oh
to
my
know,
gosh.
kiddo. Fun fact, this is actually the first Disney movie that says the word virgin in it.
Wow.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
There it
That's
is.
so funny.
That's weird. So yeah, produced by Disney and directed by our man Kenny Ortega. If you don't know who this is, then you never watched Disney Channel.
Mhm.
If you're our age, I mean Liz's age, he was part of the High School Musical sensation. I feel like I will never not know his name because he used to come on like Disney Channel and like talk about the
Mhm.
making of the movie and stuff.
Yeah. He also did Newsies. So if we have
Yes.
any Newsies fans, he did
Yeah.
that one too.
He's done a ton. He's done choreography for some big name movies. So St. Elmo's Fire, Pretty in Pink, Ferris
Wow.
Bueller's Day Off, Dirty
Whoa.
Dancing. He also does choreography for concert tours. So he's done concert tours for Cher, Miley Cyrus, Gloria Estefan, and Michael Jackson. I think he's done a Michael Jackson music video. Kenny Ortega is quite he's got a resume.
He's also
Dare
done
I
Hocus
say goat?
Pocus.
I mean, he's worked with Cher. You know,
Yeah.
do you
And Michael
believe?
Jackson.
You
Yeah.
know, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I think, Liz, you're right. Before Hocus Pocus came out in 93, I think Newsies was his big one before
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Obviously, High School Musicals came out much later than that.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
he was
quite the
destined
resume,
for
Kenny.
success. Yeah.
Good for
And then
him.
we have an original score done by John Debney.
And the score was done in just 2 weeks too. It was very quick turnaround.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know how long it took to shoot the movie? 2 weeks wouldn't surprise me, but
No, I have no idea.
okay.
I didn't get that far. Okay.
I
The
watched some
score is good
videos
though.
about the shooting of the movie, and I would imagine that it took a lot longer than 2 weeks. I think rehearsals alone took weeks
Mhm.
for just certain parts of the movie. So
Well,
the
training
cut
a
that
talking
we
cat, you know,
yeah
that takes a long time.
yeah.
You know.
the cut that we got of the movie was not the original story. It was originally
Interesting.
supposed to be centered around the Sanderson sisters and like their journey and what they had going on. It was going to be a lot scarier. And then Disney got a hold of it and did their editing magic, and it became the kids movie that it is now.
That tracks. I can't imagine this movie though, like, but just prior to editing with other cuts being a scary movie. Like, that doesn't match in my brain. So I think Disney did the right thing there by making it kind of comedic and silly.
Very comedic and silly to say the least, but that's
Yeah.
kind of the vibe they were going for from the jump. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
although it does start with a darker tone, I mean, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
we'll get into
It
that.
does.
There are
That's
some
true.
there are some scenes that are like you're like, There's like a couple little jump scares and some like suspenseful moments
hmm
that you can tell like they don't necessarily like go with the rest of the movie, but I
hmm
mean, I guess it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then for notable cast, don't have a ton, but there are a few that are definitely well known. So it's really just the three main Sanderson sisters, Bette Midler, and then Sarah Jessica Parker, who everybody knows. And the third is Kathy Najimy.
The girl who plays Danny is actually like kind of notable. She's
Okay.
also in American Beauty.
Oh, okay. She is Thora Birch.
Yeah, Thora. She was in some other like 90s movies and early 2000s movies, but as like a grown upper than she was.
Do we know what else Bette Midler is known for? I think she's like
Bette Midler is in like so many things. She was in
she's like definitely the most
First
famous.
Wives Club. She was in Beaches. She sings. She was a singer.
Yeah.
She's
and
like
then
done it
obviously
all.
we've got our girl Sarah Jessica Parker,
Who's Sex in the
Sex in
City.
the City.
That's her claim
Everybody
to
knows
fame.
her. That's okay. She's definitely the most famous, but people know Bette Midler too.
Mm-hmm. Bette
I've
Midler
never
is
seen
probably
Sex
more
and the
famous with
City.
like our parents' age people.
Yeah, for sure.
little bit
Yeah,
before
I was
our
talking to
time.
my mom earlier about how I was recording this, and she was like, "What?" I was telling her Hocus Pocus, and she's like, "Oh, is that movie with Bette Midler?" I was like, "Yeah,
Yep.
yeah." So this movie is known for being a wholesome, spooky movie. It actually flopped in the box office, but has
Sad.
become a cultural phenomenon during October every year since then.
Mhm.
I wonder why it flopped. You know, I'm trying to put my finger on it. It's just such a, yeah, I just really wonder why it flopped. I really do.
I think I read somewhere that it cost Disney like 14 or 15 million dollars.
It was like very cheap to make.
No,
Clearly.
like the negative
they
of
lost
what
money.
they lost money on it.
I think it ended up being positive, but just like barely. It didn't do like what all the other early 90s Disney movies did.
Yeah, but I don't think that matters because it has become such a phenomenon.
Yeah.
I think during October it plays like every day,
everything.
either
Well,
on Disney
lifetime
Channel or
gross is
Freeform.
probably up a lot at this point. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially
Yeah.
with the Disney Plus numbers,
Yeah.
$4 Amazon Prime rentals.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
Stuff like that.
Also, this year is the 30th anniversary. And so it's going to be back in theaters for the month of October, starting on October
Wow.
6th. So that's like 2 weeks before this episode comes out. But
That's so
Yeah.
cool. I feel like that'd be
Yeah.
a different experience getting to see this movie, like
I
so
will
clearly
definitely
made in
be
the
seeing it.
90s. Yeah.
definitely. Because people are going to be dressed up and like,
Yeah, that's so
it's going to be an
fun.
experience.
How would I
I'm-
dress up as a virgin?
I will say,
wear the little leaguer outfit.
Yeah, there you go. There you
yeah,
go.
that's perfect. I will say I love like how they portrayed Halloween in this movie, like dressing up and going out trick-or-treating and stuff
Being
because
so fun.
yeah, because Halloween is not the same as it used to be, especially
No.
in the 90s. Yeah, stuff has changed since then.
And I'm sure if you live in a town like Salem, where like that's kind of your town's like claim to fame, it's like a little
Mhm.
bit spooky, or like any old town, probably, then it's probably
Yeah.
like on steroids because everyone's just like about it. Like you live in this spooky town, might as well be spooky for one day a year.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
That's what makes Halloween the best, I'd say, is like the
Yeah.
fact that when everyone in the community is involved, because if there's only like one or two houses down the block that are
Mhm.
putting decorations out, I can't stand when people just put a bucket of candy and they
Yeah,
leave
that's
a
annoying.
note and they're just
don't
inside
do that.
watching TV or something.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
wife in the movie in
Mhm.
the smoking zone. So it's just better when everyone's involved. And like you said, Courtney, like I think things have really changed, and probably from a safety perspective, people just not being
Mhm.
engaged in like community aspects or the holidays. But
Mhm.
yeah, that would be a
Yeah.
cool place to go trick or treat for sure.
I agree. Another fun fact, I know I'm full of them today. In 1993, Halloween actually fell on a Sunday. So this movie is
Oh.
not accurate because they go to school on Halloween,
Yeah.
unless they're going to school on Sunday, which I don't think they are.
Sunday school, what a vibe.
Talk about Sunday scaries.
Yeah, right.
Do we like better when Halloween falls on a school night or when it's on the weekend? Like growing up.
I don't think it mattered. I think I was trick or treating regardless.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't have my costume yet, but soon I'll figure it out.
I don't either. I have no idea what I'm gonna be this year.
I've
No
got
idea.
some ideas. I'm very excited. My neighbors are having a party.
Oh, fun.
I know. Okay, but let's get into the Hocus Pocus
Mhm.
movie. So, the movie opens with a scene set in Salem, Massachusetts in 1693 with the Sanderson sisters, Winifred, Sarah, and Mary, who snatched the child Emily with the intent of sucking her life force out of her to remain themselves young. Emily's brother Binks is unable to save her and is cursed to transform into a black cat.
Quite the intro. Really
Yeah,
sets the tone for the movie. I don't understand. I might go on a tangent here, but I think the hanging scene was a little too much. I think there could have been a way for them to do that off screen, or maybe a way to banish them. But seeing like their dangling bodies, I felt like that's why I was kind of like, yo, like, you know, early 90s, I get the ratings were a little different, but like that was a little weird because I feel like kids walking out of the theater would be like, Mommy, how did they die? Like,
Yeah.
well, you know, and they even
Yeah.
show them like going in the
The
rope and
nooses.
stuff. But
Yep.
I guess it's fitting for the whole witchcraft and how that stuff would go down. But that's my critique from the opening. So, but I'm gonna name my son Banks because what a name!
How cute.
What
I
a name!
know.
I agree though that that scene is kind of questionable. I don't know, because the end, which we're already gonna talk about the end, but the end is like very like wholesome almost. They kind of just like turn into glitter, colorful glitter,
Yeah.
and like disappear. And I mean, aside from sucking the souls out of children, like I feel like they weren't that bad. Like they're just kind of like living their lives. Like do they deserve that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what I have to do to get on the naughty list of a witch. So
Yeah, I kind of agree that like the whole beginning scene was a little bit darker than the rest of the movie. And the hanging part of it was, I was a little shook that they were showing that. I think
yeah,
they did a good job of like making it look almost like as a kid watching, you would see that like this is almost like a theatrical production. Like it's not real. So you wouldn't be tricked into thinking like, oh, I mean, maybe you would if you were like a child. I don't know. I can't even remember. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I that's the scene where Winifred casts a curse that will resurrect the sisters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
She
know.
says, in 300 years, a virgin will light the black flame candle.
How do we feel about the sisters? We've got Winifred, played by Bette Midler, and she does her like magic spells. Sarah, played by Sarah Jessica Parker, who
She sings.
she sings, yes. And then Mary, played by Kathy Najimy, and she can smell children.
I
That's
think
her thing.
Najimy. I like how she is very consistent in keeping kind of. I can't even do it where the lip is like over, almost like she has like a slur, but it's like, yeah, you have it down pat there, Liz. But it's like, I love how she's consistent with that. I think the funniest line, I didn't like Sarah Jessica Parker's character until at the end when she goes, "Boy," like when he's floating in the
Boy.
air. I don't know why I was bursting laughing. So, but she's clearly on something throughout this movie. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's too much caffeine. I don't know if that's what MDMA is supposed to be like. I have no clue, but she is clearly on something because she's really invested in the character. Almost like the method acting went a little too far.
Yeah.
But I do think I like Najimy a lot. I think she really understands kind of how to play like the dopey, like kind of like silly sister, but
Yeah, I
also
agree.
in almost like a believable way. So
Yeah. She also like has some good ideas. She like says some things and she's like cautious. She's the only one that's like, should we do that? Or like, maybe we like think about it first.
mhm.
Maybe let's like collect ourselves and then we can go on this rampage. I like that about her.
Yeah, I think
That's a
she's
good point.
goofy too.
Yeah, she's
Like
cute.
I agree with you, Daggy, that she's kind of like the dopey sister that like kind of brings the comedy to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
got to be one. There's always one, you know.
There's
So
always
it's very
one.
fitting
Yeah.
for sure.
And
Um,
about all their characters too, like I could definitely see them being like reenacted by kids' parents, like going up
mhm.
to them and being like, I can smell children, and
There's
like just being
plays and
kind of
everything.
goofy. Yeah.
Also with Sarah Jessica Parker's character, it's funny, Daggy, that you're like, she's got to be on something because she has been like on multiple occasions, you know, asked about like, oh, like how was the filming of the movie and blah blah blah. And she's like, I have no idea, no, not a clue, does not remember anything about filming the movie.
That's weird.
So
Maybe she was on something.
Wow, that's very interesting. I'm sure there wasn't any drug test before Hocus Pocus casting,
Nope.
so that's crazy. But oh well, I mean, she does a great job, in terms of really capturing that character. And the singing is, I love when she's dancing with Master in the
Master.
living room. Yeah.
Yeah. Dance with me.
So, how do we feel about their costuming and makeup? Because throughout the movie, we get to see them switch from being like the old witches to being younger versions of themselves, and their makeup adjusts accordingly.
I think the costuming is probably the best part about the movie. There
Yeah.
are, correct me if I'm mistaken, the costumes when they're in the opening scene are different from when they come back to life, or are they exactly the same?
They might be like a little bit different. I think when they come back to life, everything is kind of ratty. Like it looks kind of old.
Okay,
Mhm.
because I think that the costumes when they're in like Salem during the 1993, it doesn't look old enough. I think the
Yeah.
costumes look good, but the vibrant pop neon colors,
Mhm.
especially on the main witch, kind of take away the vibe of like older like 1600s. But overall,
Yeah.
the aesthetic is great. I mean, the teeth are great
The
on
teeth.
the main witch, and
Uh-huh.
Sarah Jessica Parker's makeup with the big eyeshadow. So, I think the overall look is great. And I think the kids in the high school dress accordingly, especially opening with Max in the tie dye.
The
Only in the 90s
tie-dye.
would someone wear a tie
Oh.
dye crew neck to high school. So I think that was really fitting. It didn't look like anyone was out of place. But yeah, and I also like the costumes that the parents wore. The dad dressed as Dracula. So I think
Dadula.
overall, yeah, I like that. But so yeah, I think the costumes are on point. I think the witches in the modern day could have looked a little bit more antique, vintage wise,
Mhm.
but it's still fitting. I mean, that's not something you'd buy at a costume store. Like you could tell it was handmade, put
Mhm.
together. So
Yeah, a lot of the costumes were handmade.
mhm.
And two, in the scene where you see the parents like at the Halloween party and there's like a ton of costumes, they raided Disney's costume closet from all the movies that Disney
Oh,
had done prior
that's
and put
so
people in those
cool.
costumes. So if you look really closely, you can see like your favorite Disney characters, their costumes, like the live action ones, their costumes are in the movie.
That's pretty
I
cool.
loved the party that was at Allison's house where all the adults were dressed like it was like a period piece. I was
Yes.
watching that and I was just thinking, I want to go to this kind of party. Like when I have a big house, like I want to host this kind of party. That sounds
Yeah.
so fun.
It was giving Pirates of the Caribbean vibes big time.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes, 100%. I see that.
Yeah. Yeah, costumes were good. Okay.
Best
So,
part of the movie. Moving
I'll
on.
take it. I'll take it.
I mean,
Okay.
as a Halloween movie, that's a pretty big compliment for the movie, I would
Yeah, you
think.
got to nail that, and I think they definitely did. I think they definitely
Yes.
did.
So, 3 centuries later, on Halloween night in 1993, Max is forced to take his younger sister Danny trick or treating. They stumble into the home of Max's crush, Allison Watts. So here we get Max, played by Omri Katz, Danny, we mentioned, played by Thora Birch, and then Allison, who's Vanessa Shaw.
Mhm.
We also get
Love
a back to
Allison.
back when he meets Allison in the house, a back to back Google Eyes. The sister
Yes.
Because of the
says to
Yabos.
him, like, "Oh, Allison," and he looks at her like this, and then he puts his eyes to normal, and then he looks at Allison, goes like this, and looks back at his sister like that. Like, yeah. So that was cool to see a little combo there for
Mhm.
Max. Kudos to him for really
Yeah.
executing that.
I thought he was cast really well. And what's interesting is the role of Max was originally given to Leonardo DiCaprio.
Really?
Yes, and he turned it down to go do some other movie he was in that I've never seen the other movie. But it was a much more successful movie. Um, but yeah, it was supposed to be Leo playing
Well,
Max.
knowing Leo's, just streak, I'm sure he probably wasn't a virgin at that age, so he wasn't fitting.
Wouldn't have been
But
believable
He
at
couldn't have
all.
lit the black flame candle and brought them back.
that's true.
So the trio do end up at the Sanderson cottage, which is now a museum, where Max, we've established a virgin, lights the candle and resurrects the witches.
Mm.
See, I thought that was cool. The whole set with the cobwebs looked really real.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
one thing that I was questioning is if we're getting a Zippo lighter, advertising plug, if we're getting the Nike shoes multiple times, why aren't we getting a Trojan condom
There we
product
go.
placement? But maybe
There was
that's just
7-Up in there too.
there's so many opportunities to really ride the whole virgin thing and really take it to the next level. And again, just maybe recoup that $14 million budget on some
There you
big
go.
product placement. But, I'm not the executive.
I really am kind of thrown by how much they mentioned the whole virgin thing and like how
Isn't
that
it a
was just like
lot?
such a centered
It
theme
was
in
very
the movie.
casual.
Yeah. Yeah. And Danny's like 8 years old. Like that to me is kind of baffling. Like the 90s is such a different time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially when you references to the fake cop, like, oh, I'll just get it tattooed on my forehead. Well, if you got it tattooed on your forehead, I think the audience wouldn't have to verbally address it or
There we
maybe
go.
break the third wall with that. So maybe that would have been better in terms of reducing the dialogue, but I digress.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned the set, one thing I really enjoyed about this is that everything is labeled. So you've got like the broomstick up at the top that says like witch's broom. And you've got the cauldron that's labeled witch's cauldron. And like
'Cause it's in the
everything's just
museum.
like labeled. Yeah. The
Yeah.
book.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the aspect of the story that, it's sort of a fable that they tell in high school, but then
Mhm.
and there's the museum to go along with it, but then it all kind of like comes to fruition and comes to real life. I thought that
Mhm.
was like well written and kind of
And the main
creative.
character doesn't believe it, and then he becomes a
Yeah.
believer because he sees it and all the
Yeah, that's
things.
cute.
Yeah.
And Max was
Um,
smart as well. Like I guess because this does take place in that scene, when he's able to jump up, or perhaps it does happen later, but he's able to calculate like when he can use the sprinkler, like with
mhm.
the lighter. So
Yep.
he's kind of a
Yeah.
smart kid. Like you can tell he's not just acting on a whim. Like he's kind of like strategically figuring things out. Because especially when he starts to climb up, I'm like, what is he going for? So
Mhm.
that was cool to see Max kind of implement some
I
smarts there.
loved that part of the movie when he was like, what did he yell?
The reign of death.
The reign of death, and the witches were like,
Oh
they were
no.
done. They were like, the reign of death. Oh my god! And like that was all it took.
They're
I
from the
thought that was really
1600s.
cute.
They've never seen running water like that. Like,
I
That's
know, but
true.
it was just
Wow.
really like Daggy, to your point, like it was really smart of him, like not only to do that, but then to like be so like exclamatory when he did it and like
Mhm.
freak them out, and it was I thought that was really cute.
It bought
yeah.
them some time. It definitely did. Like that was
Yes.
a smart way to
Yes.
just kind of you keep them, just in one spot while they could make
Mhm.
make up some ground essentially,
Yep.
while they like move on to the next. So shout out Max.
Always
This
thinking.
scene too, right before he lights the black flame candles, where you get the iconic quote. He says, it's all just a bunch of hocus pocus." And
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That's cute.
Mhm.
So from here, we get a long series of back and forth between Danny, Max, and Allison, and Banks comes along versus the three witches because Max steals the spell book and the witches find themselves out in the world in the early 90s.
Mm. Yeah.
Is this
The
when they
whole
find the bus?
This is when they find the bus.
Because I love that scene. I think that was
What is
very
this?
well done. Especially when
Call it
they
a
like
bus.
the doors open and they like step back all together simultaneously. So I think that was well done because it does kind of show that I guess the word is culture shock because they're just not
Mhm.
used to that. So I think that was
Yeah.
portrayed very well. And then you got Sarah Jessica Parker driving the bus, which obviously she's already under the influence. She shouldn't be driving.
Just being the
So
sexy witch. That's
yeah.
all she is. I will point out too, so we see them at this point, we see them fly their brooms, right?
Yeah.
And if you'll notice, they fly their brooms like people drive. So
Hmm.
the main witch, Winnie, she is like a very aggressive driver. And she's kind of like all over the place. Sarah Jessica Parker is just kind of like And then Mary is like the cautious driver, and she actually hand signals. If you watch really closely, she hand signals when she's gonna turn and when
That's
she's like
so
slowing
funny.
down and everything. So I liked
That's
that.
really cool.
That's so funny. So the broomsticks are really, really interesting to me. Like that whole, all the effects that go into it. Liz, I'm sure you've like looked all into it, but I watched a video earlier today about how they did the broomstick effects, and they had a bunch of different ways that they did it. So they had like wires where they like rode these, I don't know, like specially made like wire, almost like a ride where they were like kind of strapped in.
Mhm.
And then there was another one where they were sitting and they were able to get like a lot of the cool effects from that. And then they also used puppets and like modeled
Mm.
puppets of the witches. So the broom scenes, so the two brooms and the vacuum cleaner, are a combination of those three different techniques.
Love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The wire technique is actually like probably the most interesting because it's it's been around in movies for a really long time. So like it started in the 30s, and then Disney kind of took it and ran with it starting in the 60s. Like with like Mary Poppins, and then it was still being used in the 90s, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. I have another like iconic line that kind of happens like in between those two scenes. Um and it's when we get introduced to Binks and Winnie says, "Thou mangy feline." And I just think it's funny. Um
Cute.
and I'll say too, so Bette Midler had two people. So a lot of her lines she improvises. She does that in all of her movies.
That's cool.
And she had two people running around like while they were filming, giving her like insults from that time period. So that's how you get all of her language, is because she had two people who were like experts in the dialogue of that time, like telling her insults so that she could like insult people
I love
in like
that.
the language that it's supposed to be.
Get into character.
Mm-hmm.
So early on in all these adventures, we get the cemetery scene where the sisters revive Billy Butcherson, who's the zombie that I think was the like past love interest of Bette Midler's character. Is that right?
Yeah, but she caught him with Sarah.
Oh shit.
That's why she sewed his
Really?
mouth
I
shut.
didn't catch that. That was a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the past
Wow.
love interest. Binks is like narrating all this, and he says that Billy was the ex-boyfriend of Winnie, but Winnie caught him with Sarah, her sister, and so to get him back, she sewed his mouth up and made it so that he could never die and he would just like live in eternity like a zombie.
Was Binks narrating this when they're like underneath, when they're like walking through the tunnels?
I think it's like when they get into the cemetery, it may be before he's resurrected.
Mm-hmm.
Binks kind of tells you like who he is,
Mm,
Okay.
and then they bring him to life.
The cemetery was a good set. I think, as any cemetery would, it looks a lot better at night. At the
Yeah.
end, jumping, I guess, to the end a little bit, when it does change that scenery, the time of day, it looks more like a set. But I do
Yeah.
think, especially
Yeah.
the scene where you see like Billy coming out of the ground and like that was very well done. Although I think Billy could have looked a little bit, but again, perhaps this plays into the PG rating. I do think that he could have looked a little more grotesque just as a zombie. I think there's a lot of points where, and a lot of the lighting has to do with this, where you're thinking, okay, that's just a guy in a costume. Because sometimes even the sewn mouth shut would not look as legitimate as it did when he first came out of the ground. But I do like that whole setting, that whole sequence was pretty good. So
Yeah,
I'll give
and
the
him
movie
losing his
that.
head all the time was fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was funny. That was
Don't
cute.
forget the fingers too.
Oh, that part was awful. Like, oh no, the fingers, not the fingers. Every time I know it's coming, and I still get like squirmy about it. It would hurt so
Aw.
bad. I just can't. Not the fingers, not the fingers.
Oh, Billy. So then we go to the high school and we see Danny and Max's mom and dad dressed up as Madonna and Count Dracula, which
Dadula, Courtney. Come on.
Dadula. They were my favorite thing.
They were really cute.
Yeah, I love them.
Her mom, she like comes up to her and she's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "Well, like it's obvious, right? Like I'm Madonna, like right?" And her daughter's like, "I don't know who that is."
Like just
Oh,
trying
that
to
was
double
cute.
check that other people would see the validity in the costume.
Yeah,
Not like,
yeah.
you put on a costume. That's the worst feeling about Halloween, where you put
Mhm.
something like, "Who are you?" Well, I took hours to make this costume. What do you
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Can't you tell who I
can't you tell
am?
who I am?
They went all out. It was pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
Yes.
That whole like, if you like look into the background, like everybody looks like they're having like the best time. Like I want to go to that party. Like where are those Halloween parties? Those like don't exist anymore. Like I don't get it. Why not?
That's true. And
Bring 'em
people
back.
really
No.
getting into costume.
Yeah.
Most people just kind of. I'm someone who creates my costumes, so like most people, most people will just go to store, buy something, throw it on, put on a wig, this and that. Like I think it's better to kind of curate the costume, and that's probably why the mom was like, this is Madonna. Like, don't you see she had like the microphone and all that?
Yes.
So it was really neat.
And the
It was
pointy
really neat.
boobs. That's like the
Yeah.
giveaway for
Yes.
Madonna.
That's too funny.
Yeah, another very 90s thing to happen.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a Disney movie today would have a mom with pointy Madonna boobs all throughout.
Be tough to dress like Madonna these days. Shots fired. She does not look good.
Maybe that's what I
Yikes.
should dress up as. In her newest music video where she wears that like pink zebra, like the tube top dress thing, the zebra
Oh
print.
no, please don't.
Maybe that's what I'll
I'm
do this
begging
year
you.
for Halloween.
What would
Heard it
Hayden
here
be?
first, folks.
There's going to be some good costumes this year. I'm excited, especially in the movie community. I'm excited to see what people do. I don't know. I did Freddy last year,
Oh, how fun.
so that was pretty good. I had a blonde wig, a little scarf, all that.
Oh yeah, gotta
I
go
don't know.
all out.
Who knows what I'll do this year? Who knows what I'll do? But it should be interesting.
I really want to dress up as Rey from Star Wars. She's one of my favorites.
Oh,
You should.
Mhm.
you got to learn the Force first, though. That might take some months, but you got time.
I don't have that much time.
Gotta get you a lightsaber that works.
I know. So let's talk about the dancing and musical numbers throughout the movie, because we've got Kenny Ortega, who's like super good at choreography, and we have some pretty iconic ones in this movie. So the first one we see in the high school scene is the witchcraft done by the Skeleton Singer. I just want to mention this one because it's a 1957 Frank Sinatra song.
I love Frank Sinatra.
Yeah,
Big fan.
yeah. But then we get the very, very iconic "I Put a Spell on You" done by the Three Witch Sisters.
I feel like even if you haven't ever seen this movie, you've definitely seen like parts of that number, and you've definitely heard it on like the radio or wherever, because it's everywhere. It lives rent free in my mind. 24/7, 365. I am thinking about "I Put a Spell on You" by Bette Midler.
That sounds painful.
All
Maybe
the time.
from my perception.
Yes.
I love
Especially around this time of year, though. Like, I feel like this is the time where people want to get in the spirit, and this has become a classic one.
Yeah, for sure.
Monster Mash. That's my
I love
go-to.
Monster Mash.
He did the mash.
He did the Monster Mash. The Monster Mash.
That's a classic.
He did the Graveyard Smash.
Liz, do you feel like this one is at that level with you? Like you hear it all the time around Halloween in your head?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to put together a Halloween playlist this year.
Oh, you should.
I'll share it with the people.
Drop it on Spotify.
Yeah.
I'll be ready to hit press play for sure.
Woo.
Yeah. The last one I want to mention is Sarah's theme, or like "Come Little Children." It's creepy. The one that Sarah Jessica Parker does.
Mm-hmm. That song is creepy. Sarah Jessica Parker is not a singer, but I think she does a good job with it. And I'll also point out that song was written by the same guy who did "My Heart Will Go On" for Titanic.
Oh.
Wow.
So if it gives you those vibes, that's why.
Definitely does give those vibes.
Shout out Sarah.
Woohoo.
She does not remember that, but shout out Sarah.
No memory.
Oh, I don't know.
So from here, throughout the rest of the movie, it's a huge back and forth with the sisters and the kids. And so I'm going to mention like a few moments or items that I want to talk about. So the first is the furnace kiln scene where Max traps his sisters and then burns them, and then like the green smoke comes out the smokestack.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys. My high school did not have an industrial kiln in it.
No.
That
I
was
was
just
really-
connected all the time.
Like I was watching that and was like, wait a second. Like I thought they were in the high school. Like what is going on?
Did we
That
get
was
like,
probably
where
a
did this
Salem
kiln
thing.
come from?
That was a Salem,
oh,
like
just
a
in
just
case
in
the witches
case.
came back.
Yeah, just in
Oh,
case,
good thinking.
they didn't do fire drills, they did witch drills. So
I mean, it didn't work at all. So horrible preparation.
I mean, it kind of worked for like a second. They at least got some like free time away from the witches.
enough to
Yeah.
dance in the little field that they were doing there and
Yeah.
tell Binks that he's a denizen now. You're
Oh.
a denizen, man. Come on home.
Oh, sweetie.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of sad that he couldn't stick around at the end.
No, but he got to go be with his sister, his real family. So that counts
That's
for
true.
something.
I know because
Um,
we've kind of skipped along chronologically, but
Mhm.
another one of my favorite scenes is where when they get off the bus and then the little angel girl goes, "Bless you," and then they're all like, "Ah!" and they're all geeking out. Like that was so funny. Like that was very well
Yeah.
done, and it makes sense because then it transitions into like the yang of that. You get the yin, which is like the angel, and then the yang would be
Mhm.
like the master devil, which was they're like
Yeah.
at your service. So that
And
was
them
really
like
funny.
not understanding Halloween. They're like, I smell the children, but I don't see any children. They're like, what are they? Hobgoblins?
Yeah.
That
I
was
feel
funny.
like one of the special things about this movie is how quotable it is and how it has those little scenes that stick with you and
Mhm.
you feel like you can replay in your head. Because I
Yeah.
think that's what makes a movie a classic like this that you want to go back to at Halloween, because Halloween time comes around and you think, dang, like I want to see Hocus Pocus again with like all those cute little moments and quotes that live in my head rent free, as
Mhm.
Liz said.
Have to. Yeah, have
Yes.
to.
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel the same. But then again, 4 times in a row, just so everyone knows, I watched this movie 4 times in a row.
Wild. That's
You're giving
absolutely
yourself
wild to me.
PTSD.
Yeah,
4
so
times.
I should have learned the potions by that point, but it's okay. I'll take notes next time. 5th time's a charm, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So before we move on from this section, Daggy, you brought up them like celebrating in the little like field, right? So you see a very iconic fountain in this scene, and that fountain is the same fountain that's used in the opening credits of Friends.
Really?
Oh.
I can totally see that.
Yep.
That's
So-
cool.
That fountain is a very iconic fountain. It has become an iconic fountain. And then in this same scene, you also see when Binks is talking to Max. So Binks is like up on the tree, and there's a house in the background. That is the house from American Beauty and Christmas Vacation.
Whoa.
Mm.
Do we know
Christmas
where this was
Vacation,
shot on
iconic.
location?
In
Where?
Salem.
Wow.
Wow.
So it was a really like community-oriented, organic
Yeah.
type vibe. That's
All
cool.
of the outdoor scenes were shot in Salem. A lot of the indoor scenes were sets, but the outdoor scenes were shot in Salem. Pretty fun.
That's really cool.
Very cool. Very cool. The more you know.
The more you know.
So a couple other little moments that I want to mention. One is the whole deal with Allison and the salt, and the fact that the witches like can't penetrate a salt circle, and so Allison gets some salt and like continuously like flings it around her throughout like the back half of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is
I
it
thought
just
that
me
was
or did
cute.
Allison look too old to be in high school?
She looked way too old.
Like when they pan over to her in
100%.
the high school, I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. But
Yes.
that's, casting is casting. I still think she did a great job. But
Mhm.
yeah, she looked probably like 26, 27.
She looked
Well,
way older than Max for sure.
Way
Okay.
older, yeah.
The only thing I will say is like movies today are a little bit unrealistic. Like I think in high school, with the girls grow first, so they like are looking a little bit more grown up at like 15, 16 than guys before they hit their growth spurt. So I kind of think it was like a little bit like it didn't throw me off that much because they're like
Mhm.
they're growing up, they're children still.
Yeah. I watched this movie with my husband Hayden, and that was like the first thing he said. He was like, "That girl is not in high school."
Okay, maybe I'm just like totally wrong.
Like, I think, yeah, maybe a little bit more mature, but she looks like she's probably 30.
I
Oh,
mean,
you
film
really
is
Max looks like
that old?
she's
subjective,
15.
So
How old? I wonder how old she was though.
during the
I don't know.
filming, can we Google that?
Yeah, Court's
Well,
on
I'll
it.
look
She's
up
already
how
Or
on
Bing
old.
it, or Chat GPT it, whatever your style is.
Yeah, whatever your go-to search engine is. Search engine away. I always use Google.
I'm a Google Bard type of guy. That's their AI platform. It's pretty good.
That's cool.
So
Pretty good.
her and Omri Katz are the same age.
How old are they?
They were both born in 76, so they're 47 years old. So
Today,
Were they
that
both
means
they're
that
virgins
57.
during the time of filming?
at in 93 they would have been like 17.
So she just looks older.
Wow.
So
So
she
she
just
was
looked
cast
older.
well. That's interesting.
But she wasn't like glammed up or anything. Like it's not like
No.
I don't know. She just looks older.
She
Genetics.
did look older.
I mean,
Genetics.
she kind of looks the exact same as like she did then, like especially in the face. I think she just has like a mature looking
Mature.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, some of us didn't get those genes. It's fine.
Yeah. Hey, I look 18. And I'm 26.
Yeah. Courtney and I get that all the time. People are like, "You
Yeah.
look so young." It's like, thanks.
I've kind
It's
of
a good
stopped
thing.
getting
It's a good
it
thing.
like
Yeah.
in the last year and it sucks, honestly. So just
Don't
enjoy
you
that while you have it. Next, I want to talk about like special effects and CGI used in the film.
Mhm.
We already mentioned a lot about the broomsticks, which I think is like the most fascinating thing because, and what's fascinating about it to me is that for a lot of the effects, they were practical effects, and the witches like actually, like the actual actors got to be part of those scenes instead of having like stunt doubles be the ones that are on the broomsticks.
Mhm.
That's pretty neat.
I have two other practical effects.
Okay.
So one is when Billy cuts his mouth open and the moths fly out.
Yeah.
Real moths are flying out of that actor's mouth.
That's disgusting. How long did he have them in there?
So they created like a pocket for him. So they like it was connected to his prosthetic. That was like the whatever those things are.
Yeah.
And there was like a small little tiny hole in the back so he could like puff them out. But they would like put them in, like close his prosthetic and then like shoot as soon as possible. But they had to do it multiple times. They used so many moths. Someone would have to go in like with little tweezers and like put the moths in his mouth.
That's wild.
That's worse than Michelle Pfeiffer putting an actual bird into her mouth for Batman Begins. And birds are pretty dirty. But to have
Birds are pretty
moths,
dirty.
like multiple moths.
Yep.
Ugh. Shout out Billy, man. Taking one for the team. Taking
Yeah,
one from the
taking
whole
one.
graveyard.
That's insane.
And then the second one I have is at the end when Winifred turns to stone. That's
Yeah.
also a practical effect. They had 7 statues made to help bring to life like the different stages of her turning to stone.
Wow. See, that was well done. I will, you know
Mhm.
what? That was very well done. I did like
Yeah.
that. I don't understand why she turned into stone
Everyone else
and the
just
other ones
exploded.
didn't.
Yeah, I
like
don't
right
understand
away.
that either.
Yeah, but I like that. I think the stone looked good, and the fact that they are showing that kind of chronological order,
Mhm.
obviously sped up or however they were able to cut it. That's well done. Shout out Ortega.
It
Yeah, I thought
sounds
that was
to
really
me
cool.
like they didn't do the other sisters because then they would have had to make 7 statues each for them. So they
They were
probably
like,
just like
"This is too much."
ran out of budget there or
They
something.
were also in the sky. So like what is their statue gonna like fall to the ground?
That would have been a cool effect though. Fall to the ground and then like break, like
Yeah.
pieces all over
Yeah.
the place. That would
And
have
then
been
have the
cool.
colorful glitter.
Yes, yes. But yeah, the glitter looked so bad. Oh my gosh. Especially when the statue blows up with the green. I was just like, what is it? Looks like someone took like they just took the frame of the camera and just threw
Mhm.
on glitter and then
I think that's what they did.
yeah, it was bad. But it's okay, like film, you got to learn. You don't do that on the sequel or the threequel. So,
Here we
whatever.
go.
Yeah.
And then the cat. We got to talk about the cat, Binks,
Yeah.
because they did use CGI to create parts of Binks, but they also used animatronics.
And they used real cats. They had 9 real cats that were used
What?
throughout the movie because he performs stunts, right? So
Yeah.
he like jumps on Max at one point. That was a real cat. When he's like jumping up on the trees, that was a real cat. And so they had to find cats that could do these different tricks. They have 9 different cats. And then the things that were not like safe for the cats to do, that's when they used the animatronics. And obviously to make him talk, he was CGI'd.
So that right there is
Yeah.
probably the biggest issue is the fact that you have 3 moving pieces plus 8 more in the 9 cats. If you're
Yeah.
going to go all in on a talking cat, CGI the whole thing
Yeah,
because
just
I
make
think
it
that's where
fake.
it just doesn't look good. And obviously in the point where the cat inflates, that was really neat.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as capturing the overall look of the cat, it doesn't make sense to have all these different variants because
Mhm.
even as the audience member, someone who's
You
not
can
trained in
tell.
film can just tell on that. And the
Mhm.
CGI for the 90s, I mean, the cat talking didn't look terrible, but you could see it kind of shifting back between,
Mhm.
because if there was
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they used the cat and then CGI'd the face or if it was a total CGI, because when it was total CGI for most of the time, you could see this like outline
The
around the cat,
outline.
like a glow.
Yeah. Oh
And it was
no.
fitting, I guess, for the world building as far as because there's magic in there, so it makes sense. But yeah, that's knowing that. Thank you for that fun fact. That's not good that they had all these different options to go with as far as
Mhm.
creating the actual cat. I think there should have been one directive decision, one creative
Mhm.
choice, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost wish they would have just like not shown him talking and just like had the cat and like have him speak but don't show his face and just like have the cats just cat sit and people human voice but you just see the back of the cat and that would have been better.
I like that because then like when Max is like, "Oh my gosh, you talk," opposed to him going right to his iconic look, he could have been like, "What's that noise? What's that noise?" And they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, it's coming from you." So
it's the
that would have been
cat.
better. But they were looking for another reason for Google Eyes, so they went right to it.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting about the CGI of Binks talking is that the producers of Hocus Pocus actually thought that it looked too realistic. So they requested that the teeth be made smaller and less pointed so that Binks was like had a friendlier look.
Hmm.
So
I
maybe
guess they
that
succeeded
contributes to it a
there.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for the early 90s, I mean, it's still impressive to a certain aspect. I'm sure today, it's a whole different thing, but I mean, it's
And
no
I mean,
strays, it's no strays. It's not going to be
yeah.
like, looking, because that was that, on another note, that movie looked amazing in terms of
Mhm.
personifying the animals and giving them those anamorphic qualities. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. The cat was just took me out of the movie every time I saw it. So, and I'm not a
In
cat person as it
93,
is.
in
Yeah.
93, CGI was very much in its infancy. So they
Mhm.
Mhm.
definitely did not have the technology to like make Binks a fully CGI'd cat. So I think like with the technology that they had, they almost had to do it like 3-piece like that. But I think it was like pretty good. Like obviously you can tell it's not a real cat, but I think it kind
Mhm.
of goes into like the movie, the whole thing. Like I think there's an element to it that's like you can tell it's a production because
Mhm.
it's for
Mhm.
kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think too maybe in 1993 people were probably impressed by it and they were
Yeah.
like, look at this, like a real cat. Like, how do they make it talk? And whatever. Like, I could see my grandmother being like, it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. They had a talking cat, like thinking it was real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
Everyone in the
today we're
theater
like,
went googly eyed when that happened. They all mimicked
yeah,
Max. They were
Yeah.
like, "Whoa!"
whoa.
Well, I mean, same thing too, like with the broomstick flying, right? Like when you're watching it today in 2023, 30 years later, you can clearly tell it's not real. Like you
hmm
can watch it and know that there were effects. But back in the 90s and before that, like how cool that must have been to see. because that's not something
Witches
that.
flying on broomsticks.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like that they were involved as well. Like you said, it wasn't doubles, or obviously there was 3 moving parts and how they were able to create the effect. But that is cool that they were actually on the brooms or the vacuum for that matter.
Oh, Mary, we love you.
She's the best.
Yeah. And then kind of towards the end, Danny gets stolen yet again. She gets stolen like quite a few times in the movie.
Damsel
And
in
there's this whole
distress.
scene with like the cauldron and the witches brewing the potion and everything. And then obviously they use some effects there to like make the cauldron look spooky and like it's brewing something.
My favorite of the like special effects that were done with, I'm assuming with CGI, was whenever Winifred would like use her like electrical powers and she'd like
Yeah.
it would shoot out of her hands. Those were actually done, I thought, pretty well. It looked like electricity. It was the green that matched her. It like went where it was supposed to go. Like I thought those looked pretty good.
I'd have to agree. That was definitely that was neat, and it kind of gave her more that villainous
Mm-hmm.
vibe, because we never
Yeah.
see her really doing too much damage, other than her, which anyone can do that. But the fact that like when she was
Yes.
like, kind of like as the oh my goodness, what is Barry from the Flash when he's like, I'm gonna emperor them,
Mhm.
and she's shocking them. So that was really cool. I agree with that. That was cool.
Yeah. That was
Yeah,
my
I think
favorite.
one thing I like too about movies like this is that like back in the 90s is that the effects were it took so much to make them happen because it had to be a combination of practical effects, animatronics,
Mhm.
puppets in this movie and CGI. The chances that you see it in the movie are much fewer, right? So I think they're a little bit more special when you get to see moments like that where you see electricity, from her magic coming out of her hands. Like
Mhm.
it only happens a few times in the movie, or does it only happen
Mhm.
in that one last scene?
I think it's twice.
Twice.
It happens
Okay.
at the beginning. No, 3 times.
3
So it happens at
times.
the beginning, and then she does it to Max twice, I think.
Okay.
She's like, up against thy wall.
Okay. So cutting to the final scene, the sun is soon to rise, but it looks as if the Sanderson sisters will be able to win by forcing Danny to consume their potion. But Max sacrifices his own life, chugs the potion, giving the group enough time to collectively distract the sisters and deter them from taking Max's soul. So as the sun rises, Winnie turns to stone, and then all 3 sisters disintegrate. And Binks is thought to be dead, but really turns into his human form and is reunited with his sister.
Questionable with how they brought Binks back to life, but I don't know. That's just me.
I would also like to point out that the Sanderson sisters had effectively rounded up all of the children in Salem, aside from Danny and Max and Allison. They were all ready at their house. They had 1 vial left. They could have picked any one of those little tiny kids that was
Yes.
waiting outside their house, gotten themselves enough time that then they could go and attack Danny and Max and Allison. And what did they do? They had to have Danny. They had to.
The
And
plot
that's what
holes
led to their demise.
the plot holes in this movie are a little they're very high in number. And that's definitely one of them. I mean, there's so many moments where like you get one of the sisters going after and like doing something, and I'm just sitting there thinking like, what are the other 2 sisters doing? Like just like they're waiting to be subbed in, like sitting up against the wall,
Probably.
Thy plot holes were very noticeable.
Oh yeah.
That's for
Yeah.
sure.
There was one moment too I noticed that was kind of like a miss, probably.
Okay.
And so when they're like driving away after this is the second time that they've like been face to face with the Sanderson sisters and they've gotten away. And it's at the end after the sisters have made their potion and Max does his like cunning whatever and like thwarts them some way and knocks over the potion and then they're like leaving. And he's driving and they're like, "Oh, are they following us?" And they're like, "No." And then they like Winifred is like in the driver's window and he's like, oh my God. And she's like, let me see your driver's permit. But they're supposed to be from the 1600s. They didn't have cars or driver's permits. So
But
big
maybe that was an
miss.
improvised line, and in post edit they
They
were like,
just
"Oh,
left it in.
we're just gonna keep it." Yeah.
We like it. It's funny.
Yeah. I think there was a lot that they would have been shocked by from that 300-year jump that they just kind of like went with it. Like
Mhm.
no questions asked, kind of.
They showed like a couple things, like them walking on the asphalt and being like, what is it? It's a black
Yeah.
river.
Yeah.
But that was like kind of like the last one. And then everything else they just
It
kind of
was
like
a little
went with it.
inconsistent, but I do like the TV where when the wife comes out, she's trying to turn off the wife almost, where she's like taking the remote, like, why won't you shut off? Like that was really funny.
Goofy. Really
And
was
then
goofy.
the Medusa where they're looking at the,
Look at the
I don't
snakes
know
in
what
her
the name
hair.
of those are.
They're curlers.
The curlers in her hair, and they're like, oh, it's Medusa. Like that was really
And
funny.
she looks at them and they're all like,
yeah. So there's a little inconsistency throughout the movie, but I do agree that it's enough, but it's not fully enough. So
yeah.
I thought it was
It
kind
was
of
all cute
charming though.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Disney movie.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So then at the end, we move into the credits and we get to see a couple things. One is we see all the people in the town, like kind of the spell is broken, and Max and Danny's parents are walking out of the house. And yeah, I love that we circle back to them because they're super cute.
The very, very end, like the last thing that you see is you see Ice and whatever the other guy's name is. You see them in their cages still. And they're
Yeah,
just
the
kind of like
bullies.
singing. Yeah. And it's interesting that they did that because you don't ever know what happens to them. But there is a Hocus Pocus 2. And you might, if you watch that movie, find out what happens to them.
Yeah.
You'll have to tell me because I don't think I'll watch it. That's okay. Listen, I still have another 24 hours on my Amazon rental. I might go for round 5.
Oh my gosh, that's
We shall see.
Enjoy.
But I do
Okay.
think the ending was great. Not
Yeah.
to cut you off there, but I do like
Oh, all
how
good.
we get the credits rolling and we're able to see them like leaving the party. That was really neat. And kind of it emphasizes more that Halloween vibe because you see them in costume, all dressed up again. And yeah, I mean, shout out Ice and shout out the other kid. It makes
I
sense
keep
why they
wanting to
ended
call
up
them
there.
Crab and Goyle.
That's
Wait,
fun.
say it
Crab
again?
and Goyle. Crab and Goyle, like from Harry Potter.
Crab and Goyle. That's so funny.
Yeah, that is kind of cute. I do like that they showed them like kind of in a goofy way at the end, like getting a taste of their own medicine, sort of. Yeah,
They were really goofy. One of them was wearing like a Scottish skirt. Did you see that?
Yes.
Was that his costume?
It was
Yeah,
Ice.
no,
he
that's
was just
probably
wearing it.
his
I
everyday
think-
attire.
I think what that was is he had a flannel wrapped around his waist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And he turned it.
Like-
He turned it like in the 90s. How they
Yeah.
would. That's so
Yeah.
funny. Okay.
Wait, turned it? Was
Because
that a
it
trend?
looked like it was
In
if
the
you were to tie
front.
something around your waist, the tie
Yeah.
would be in the front, but it looked like he shifted it, like turned it to the front.
It was, I think what it was is it was like oversized and it was like really, really big. And so
Okay.
it like fit all the way around him kind of
Okay.
thing.
That
A
makes
90s
sense.
like-
style thing.
Yes.
90s, early
they like
90s style.
overemphasized. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. But it was, they did look silly. And like the stealing of the shoes, like what did that have to do with anything?
Product placement. They did it 4 or 5 times at the end where like
Yeah.
he pulls them from his feet. I like
Mhm.
that kind of redeeming like factor of it though, where he gets the
It's
shoes
like, aren't
back.
you going to let us out? And he's like, I'm going to take my shoes.
Yeah.
Cute. Okay. So that is everything that I had to discuss about this movie. Daggy, Liz, is there anything that we missed that you would like to discuss before we rate the movie?
I think there's definitely some highlights. I think my favorite sequence goes from where the girl says like bless you to where they meet the homeowner who's dressed as the devil. I thought it made sense. It was very fitting in terms of
Yeah.
probably their understanding and like what they know is a weapon against them or what is not a weapon against them. So that was cool to see that. So probably everything from when they get onto the bus into the home. And I thought it was hilarious when he said non-smoking section. and then they go into and the wife is literally like chain smoking
Yes.
cigarettes.
Yes.
Like that was so funny. But I think I like that a lot. And another moment that made me laugh out loud is where when the kid comes home, Max, and he doesn't have the shoes on, and the wife's like, well, where's his shoes? And he's like, oh, it's just a sign of rebellion. It's like the parents not for one second are like,
Yeah.
oh, where's our son's shoes? But and thankfully I just remember this. When he you see the volume spike there. So when he comes into his room, there's a skateboard, and it's a Hellraiser skateboard. If you know what Hellraiser is,
Oh.
it's a popular horror movie. Do you know what Hellraiser is? Just Google it real quick, just so you see.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, it should be Hellraiser. Yeah, so it's the guy holding like the box.
Oh
Do you
my
see that?
gosh.
So his skateboard is a Hellraiser skateboard. I thought that was really neat, almost like paying homage, to a really popular
A
horror
real
movie, which I
spooky
have not
movie.
seen.
Yeah.
But that was
I
really
haven't
cool. I
seen
caught that out of
that.
the corner of my eye. So glad I remembered that. I really wanted to include that. So, but other than that, I mean, eager to hear your thoughts, Liz. Obviously, you're a big fan, so probably all
Huge
positives.
fan.
Huge
Yeah,
fan.
this is like one of my favorite Halloween movies. I watch it every year. I'm sure I watch it multiple times a year. I've watched it like every Halloween since I can remember. And like my feelings are not hurt that other people don't like it. Like I can see that it's not
Yeah.
like the best movie ever, but I just think it's so fun. And if you haven't seen it, like definitely go watch it because it's at
Well, I
least to
will say
have the
this.
like
There's
to
no
know
such
about
thing
it.
as a guilty pleasure. Like film is subjective. So if you like it and you know why you like it and you like it for that reason, then it's not a guilty pleasure. It's just a good movie. So
Oh,
same
thank
thing
you.
applies to Batman Forever, but I digress.
Yeah, this is a safe space. Like what you want to like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. So with that said, we are going to do the ratings, and Daggy, we're going to start with you. So as a reminder, we rate all of our movies through Letterboxd, which is 0 to 5 stars with half-star increments.
Okay, so fitting the theme, it's 5 stars, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah, out
5
of
stars
5.
is the rating scale. So let's convert
Yeah.
those to pumpkins or cauldrons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say, as if it's a cauldron, 5 cauldrons. In terms of accomplishing what it wanted to accomplish, I'll give it 1.5 spilled cauldron out of 5. So 1.5.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah,
That's not
which
too
hurts
bad.
me. That's
Better
painful.
than 0.
Well, it certainly knew what it wanted to do, in terms of the campiness and trying to convert it into a kids movie while still having some darker elements, while still making it iconic. I mean, who doesn't love the dialogue throughout and like some of the stuff you said with the cat? I can't remember. It was a word with an M, so that was really funny.
Mangy.
The
How
mangy,
mangy
thy mangy
feline.
cat. Yeah, so that was cool. I'm gonna give it a 1.5 spilled cauldron. So
Very fair.
Okay. Liz.
I gave this 4 stars sheerly for the like rewatch and just because like I love it. I get so much enjoyment out of watching this movie. This is one of those movies too that I can just like throw on and just like be doing stuff around the house and be like happy
Yeah.
about it. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I absolutely love this movie. It didn't get 5 stars for obvious reasons, but 4 stars.
I
Great,
think this is
loved
one
it.
of those movies that like people who like it just love it, and they just like have a
Mhm.
special place in their heart for it.
Not like a cult
And-
following.
Yeah,
I'll
and it's
join.
like it's one of those things too, like, we're getting into fall, like spooky season. Like
Pumpkin
what a
spice.
better movie to watch than this one, like with your family. Like
Mhm.
I think it's cute.
I agree.
I did try my first pumpkin spice latte, and I see the hype around it. I'm more of a black coffee type of guy, like just black
Yeah.
coffee. But on the note of fall, I see the craze. I see the craze around it. So
I do like a good pumpkin spice latte, that's for sure. But my rating, with that said, is definitely more in line with Daggy. So I wasn't somebody who like watched this movie really growing up. My family was more of the Charlie Brown, like the Great Pumpkin vibe. That's like what my dad liked to watch with the family. So we didn't watch this movie. However, I recognize that this movie is like a silly movie and it's like made for families. So I definitely would think like if you are somebody who just like wants to get in the Halloween spirit, watch this movie. However, I've given it a 2 out of 5 stars.
Cauldrons.
Cauldrons, yes, my
cauldrons.
bad. Pumpkins.
Or buckets of candy, or pumpkins, or candy corns. Just keeping
All
it
the
in the theme.
things.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
unpopular
Love
opinion,
that.
I don't like candy corn.
Oh, I can house some candy corn.
That makes
I
two of
know
us,
you
Courtney.
can.
I can't do it. My only go-to candy is Reese's. That's it.
I
Reese's
love
or an
Reese's
almond
pumpkin.
almond chocolate bar.
Mm.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh shit. Okay. Let's move into our write-ins before I'm like planning to go buy some Halloween candy at the store after this.
Yeah. So we got some very fun write-ins. Everyone that wrote in loves this movie. I'm
Of
just going to say
course.
that. But we're going to pick a few and talk about them. So the first one I have is from Why the Flick. It's another movie podcast. And they said, I did a Hocus Pocus trivia night once and we got a perfect score. That's how much I love it.
That's amazing.
The next one we have is from Staring at Goats, which is another movie podcast. And they said, love it, with 5 exclamation points and a star eyes emoji. Another podcast, this one's called Saute South, I believe. And he said, loved it as a kid, haven't rewatched in forever. So this is everyone's rewatch reminder. If you haven't seen it in a while,
Yes.
go and watch it. And then the last one I have, Daggy, this one is near and dear to our hearts. So one of our really good friends who we talk to all the time, Cinema Chill with Cozy. He said, legendary Halloween classic with a fire emoji.
Good old Cozy. I can
We
just
love Cozy.
seeing his hype from the Aquaman trailer. I can already see his hype in typing out that little write-in. So yeah, he's a ball of energy. I love that guy. He's so funny.
All of his posts are very fun. If you're looking for somebody to like hype your mood literally every day, give him a follow. We love Cozy. Shout
You know
out
what's funny though?
Cozy.
I said to Courtney before we started, I said, "Oh, like in the Cozy Lounge." She goes, "What's the Cozy Lounge?" And then I realized that she's more on the editing side opposed to the hands-on Instagram. So that's too funny. But yeah, shout out the Cozy Lounge. Shout out Cozy for putting that together. We got a great starting 12 in there. Love the Cozy Lounge.
Neat.
But yeah, so that's all of our write-ins that we're talking about today. And then another thing we like to do is talk about how everybody else felt about the movie. So on Letterboxd, the average is a 3.4 out of 5, which is honestly pretty good.
That's very good for Letterboxd.
This movie. Tomato meter, so the critic score is a 39%, which that tracks. Yeah. And then the audience score is a 72. The audience is feeling it. IMDb has a 6.9 out of 10, which is pretty good. And then 86% of Google users liked the movie.
That's really high.
So audiences like it.
I think though people who watch it are the people who like it, you know? Like this isn't one of those movies that people go and see because like they want to critique it, because if they are, they're going to give it, you know, similar to what I did, like 40%, 39%. But as a movie that like you love, I think this is one that people go to.
I think it has nostalgia, especially just, you know, in the season of Halloween, and being able to really turn your brain off and sit back and enjoy something. And I think really just most people probably watch it. You know, I can only imagine people sitting around like watching the movie and then quoting the iconic lines out loud, and just for an excuse to say it one more time. We must find the book, brew the potion, and suck the lives out of the children before sunrise. So I think that's pretty cool that people are able to really invest themselves into the movie from that perspective.
Yeah. That impression is literally so impressive. I would watch you do it over and over. I've watched you do it several times now today. So
I'm gonna have to start charging for it.
Yes.
Well,
monetize
if you
it.
like that impression, you should check out Daggy's stuff. So Daggy, will you plug with the people where to find you?
So you can check me out on all platforms. It's at Perf Popcorn. So that's PERF Popcorn. and it's movie trivia, movie news, movie reviews, and some of the best edits online right now coming from your
Yes.
boy Daggy. So check me out, and make sure if you catch me in the street to have your movie trivia ready, because you can win some cash. So check me out at perfect or at perf popcorn, but perfect popcorn across all platforms. So
Awesome.
Perfect.
It's been very
Check 'em
fun,
out.
Daggy.
Yeah.
You brought so much hype, more than we could have expected.
Yes.
It was a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you
of
so
course.
much.
It was an
great chatting
honor.
with you.
It was an honor to be on the pod. Shout out the B Critics. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, bye, Daggy.
Signing off.
And bye, B Critics fam. Thanks for tuning into our Hocus Pocus episode. Be sure to leave us a rating, a review, drop a comment on our YouTube, and leave us an answer to our poll and Q&A section on Spotify.
And you can find more information about the podcast and our whole podography on our website, bcritics.com, or you can find links to all the things in our episode show notes.
And next week, we've got another spooky season movie planned for you guys, and you're not going to want to miss it.
Yeah, be sure to check it out and ensure that you subscribe or follow us on all the things so that you don't miss it. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts.
All right, that's all we have for this one. So we'll see y'all on the next one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.